I was in my blind with my string drawn down on a sweet 8-point buck when out of nowhere a big-ass rock smashed that deer right in the rib cage and down it went. Hello and welcome back to Talk About Strange. Thank you for joining me here today. I got a great compilation of stories to share with you today. These are really great stories. I shared them early on. For some of you that have been with me from the beginning, you probably remember these stories, but I haven't shared them in this new studio. And since I've come so far on making these videos, early on I used some corny sound effects and stuff, so it made it a little bit hard to listen to. So I thought, why not let them relive and do a group of them? So in this first set, I got 3 of them. And in the next video I'm going to do, there's 4. And then at the end of this video here, I'm going to give an update as to where I'm at and why I'm wearing this Evolution of Production Studio shirt. So some of you might have seen that other video I shot on my other channel, and that's the channel I'm going to be promoting for a while here. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started right on to these stories. I know you guys can enjoy them. They're really good stories, so stick around. Let's get started. All right, here we go. Bigfoot saved my life. Steve, hello, my name is Sarah from Saranac, New York. First, I'd like to say I really enjoyed your Indian ghost possession / footprint in the water video. So much, I went on to watch your other 2 videos. My other 2 videos. This was a long time ago. I really got a kick out of the funny graphics you added, especially the little dancing alien. I hope he makes it into more of your videos. That's Fred. Wow, Fred the dancing alien. I haven't used him in a while. However, how to clean a fish video was a little too gross for me to laugh out loud, though I'm sure there are a lot of people that enjoy that sort of stuff. As for the footprint in the water, that is definitely strange. I agree with you when you asked, how could that have gotten there? I can say that because last year we had to clean some moss off from our foundation walls, and it was really difficult to remove, even with a pressure washer. Those of you who don't know, I'll post it up here. That was something at a ravine where I was at, and I go to, and I'm going to be going to it again this year to see if that is still there. There's this footprint on the stone, and it's moss-covered stone. You can't hardly clean that stuff off, but there's a perfect footprint there under the water. It's amazing. So, check that out, and you can check that video out if you want. So how that got there is definitely a mystery, but that's not the reason I'm writing to you. I have a story I'd like to share that has been weighing on my mind for some time now, but I've always been afraid to talk about it. That is until I watched your videos. Plus, no offense, but you don't have a lot of subscribers yet, laugh out loud, so I feel a little less vulnerable. Sorry, I'm just saying. Well, I got more now. That's great. With that in mind, you're welcome to share my story. Please keep in mind any of my personal information private. I won't be specific on some details out of respect for my ex and his family. Not to mention, I've never told anyone else about this and probably never will again. A couple of years ago, I went camping with my boyfriend and his family. They own some wooded land near Old Forge. This is a rock bed stream like the one in your video, only a little bigger. Just a short walk from their camp. It leads to the lake. This took place in early fall, so it was beautiful, but starting to get cold. After dinner one evening, my boyfriend, we will just call him Dick, wanted to go for a walk to the little riverbed stream. I wasn't thrilled about going because it was getting late and I didn't want to be out there in the woods after dark, but he insisted it would be fine and there was plenty of light. I had a pretty good idea why he wanted to go anyway, but I knew that he knew his way around the woods and trails there really well. But I also knew the hike takes a good 15 to 20 minutes to get to the stream bed because you have to walk around a big hill that shoots out across the pathway. They call it a big toe. Otherwise, it would only take about 10 minutes. We reached a fishing area his family cleared and was only there for about a half hour or so, and it was already getting dark and really cold. He didn't bother making a fire because it was so late, so I said that I wanted to go back. Not to mention I had a really uneasy feeling about it. So we started walking back towards the trail entrance. Let me explain what we were looking at. With our back to the stream facing the trail entrance, as you enter the trail, straight in front of you is the toe-shaped hill coming from the left, so you have to turn right in order to go around it. Or up the hill to the left for a more difficult but shorter walk through the woods. Continuing, we had just turned right into the trail when all of a sudden we heard a loud branch break near the far end of the hill/toe ahead of us. Of course, we stopped. What the F, right? I whispered, what was that? Dick says it's probably my brother screwing around. I'm not going to lie. His brother can be a jerk. Still, we waited a bit. Then we heard scuffing in the brush ahead and more twigs snapping. That's when Dick turns to me and whispers, shit. I was like, don't screw with me. What is wrong? He says, that's not my brother. It's definitely a bear. I probably shouldn't have called him an idiot, but I was scared. I asked him if it would leave. He said, not likely. It's probably coming down here looking for fish. We need to go back the other way and up over the hill fast and quiet. You could still see the trail, and I really didn't want to go into those dark woods, but he took my hand and said, just stay with me. We'll be fine. I cut through here all the time, and it's not that bad, and it's much faster. I still remember when we cut through the first bit of brush. Some of the thorns scratched my arms and snagged my hair, but I really can't say I cared at that point. Once in the woods, other than being dark, it wasn't so bad. It was kind of open with a lot of dead logs, big rocks, and lots of leaves on the ground. As I started to feel a little bit more at ease, when all of a sudden Dick throws his arms out across to me and stopped dead in his tracks looking to his left. I asked, what is it? And he shushed me. After a few seconds, we heard the same scuffing in the woods coming up our right, kind of behind us, and something to the far right coming up the hill. I swear, my heart was pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. Shit, he says, yet again. And I said, why did we stop? I asked. He said, I thought I seen something up ahead of us, and he pointed up to the left over there. And whatever was behind us was getting way too close. So we started walking forward, seemingly stepping on every loud-ass leaf and twig in the forest. It was horrible. I can imagine. It's like hunting. Well, apparently we startled what looked like a small bear or maybe a cub that was closer than we thought, because it darted out across the front of us, causing the big one behind us to come charging up the hill towards us. Dick, still holding my hand, hollered, run, and took off, apparently not realizing he'd left me frozen and scared stiff. I tried to run, but my feet apparently forgot how. I knew I was about to die because there's no way I could outrun a bear. That's when I saw whatever he was looking at off to the right. This big, hulking man-like thing came out of the shadows straight at me like a freight train. So I closed my eyes and waited for the worst. At that point, I figured it would be quick anyway. But whatever it was blew right past me. I felt it brush across my arm and shoulder with a whoosh and a deep, like grumble sound. Then I heard a thud and a smashing in the leaves and brush as the bear let out a loud whining sound like it just got hurt. So even though I was scared shitless, I turned to see what just happened. From what I could make out, whatever it was that ran past me slammed into the bear, and they rolled back down the hill in a big black ball of hair. As they came to a stop, I watched the bear get up and run off like a scared little dog into the woods. Then I looked back as the big man-like thing stood up and shook off the sticks and leaves. It's hard to describe because it was dark, but I think it looked at me for a moment, then took a couple of steps and was gone. Just gone. No sound, just gone. I couldn't understand how something so big, 8, maybe 9 foot tall, could just vanish as everything went silent. I wanted to cry, but for some reason I couldn't. I had to think for a moment in order to figure out where I was before I could continue out of the woods. Dick was waiting on the trail almost all the way back to the camp. Very concerned about my well-being, Dick asked me what happened. I'm sorry. That's terrible. Dick. I just told him the bear ran past me and kept going. I didn't want to risk him and his family going out to hurt whatever that was, because obviously for some reason it just saved my life. Why? Why did it save me that day? When we got back to the cabin, we told everyone what happened with the bears. I remember the father looking at me as if he knew something was off. I don't know. Maybe he was just scared for us. Needless to say, Dick and I are no longer a thing. I can imagine. Oh, and you know how everybody says that they smell the smell of death when confronted or near a so-called Bigfoot. If that is what it was, I know I was scared and it happened so fast, but It was more like a mix of dirt and sweat, not pleasant at all, and yet not repulsive, I guess. I can't say that I'll ever care to go camping again after all that, but I don't think I'd be afraid either, nor do I think that I'll ever talk about this again. I just wanted someone else to know my story, and yes, I'm curious if this has happened to anybody else. Thank you for listening. Good luck with your channel. Sarah from Saranac. All right, Sarah, if you see this, thank you again. We really appreciate you sending that in. And you really did. When the first time I shared this, even though my I was new and learning, and it wasn't great, you did get a lot of love on this and a lot of support and a lot of feedback from it. So great stuff. Thanks again. It's probably one of my favorite stories, especially from the very beginning. Okay, this is another one that really just hasn't gotten enough love. And I mean, this is a great story, and I love history. So, it might be the wrong time of the year for it, but if you're a history buff at all, this is cool stuff and stuff you don't really hear a lot about. I've heard a little bit more about it since after we shared this one. I'm not saying it was because of us, but maybe it got shared somewhere else. All right, this one is the Thanksgiving Sasquatch. Steve, I have a story I'd like to share. However, I have to be careful about the details. I will have to remain anonymous because this story was never supposed to come out. However, I'm certain it is going to eventually anyway. Unfortunately, I cannot offer any real proof of this story as the evidence was lost in the Big Boston Fire of 1872. And I think this story has come out because I think I've seen it other places. Anyway, we'll let you guys decide. The story that has been passed down amongst my family is that my forefather arrived here on the Mayflower around 1620 and was one of the 50 or so survivors that attended the big harvest fest we call Thanksgiving. I'll spare you the long details, but in short, the first winter was extremely difficult and a lot of folks died from hunger and elements. I guess that's why it became such a big deal when the following year they were able to hunt, fish, and grow fields of food to store for the winter. So as you probably already know, the Pilgrims started the celebration with a party of sort. They sang and danced and was firing their guns and making a lot of noise. That led to the local Wampanoag Indians coming to see what was happening. We all know the Pilgrims welcomed them in to join. I guess around 90 or so of the Indians came and also brought food to pass, but that's not the whole story. According to the journal that was lost in the fire, there was another smaller group that joined them for the 3-day celebration. It was written that the Wampanoag leader, Masusu, requested his special forest friends to join them, but only under sworn secrecy for their protection, as this other tribe had also suffered from the same plague that wiped out the Patuxet Indians. Now weakened and at risk of attack by other tribes, it was important for them to stay hidden. But Masusu thought it was best that the Pilgrims be friends with this mysterious tribe rather than mistaking them as a threat and killing the few that remained. All the Pilgrims agreed to a treaty of sort, and shortly after, over 20 of the forest people emerged. At first, the Pilgrims were in fact very scared and with good cause. All of these forest people were camouflaged in what looked like bear-covered fur. Most of them were extremely large, in excess of 8 to 10 foot tall, with shoulders as wide as oxen. As they got closer, they realized that the fur wasn't of a bear, but their own hair-covered bodies. None of them were wearing any clothes, even over their genitals. The Pilgrims could tell by the group's posture they felt threatened because a smaller group forest people were carrying hands full of fresh killed deer, rabbits, and turkey, while the larger ones held wooden clubs and looked like they were ready for battle. Masusu greeted the small group of large hairy people at the edge of the camp. They communicated back and forth through a series of grunts and hand motions. Eventually, one of the Pilgrim leaders walked over to them. He and the Indian chief were described to look like two young boys standing next to their fathers. The Pilgrim leader took off his hat and handed it to the larger man-like creature. He took it from him and looked it over, then sniffed it, then handed his club to the Pilgrim. He took the heavy club in both arms and led them back to the camp. For the next 3 days, knowing very little about each other, yet clearly very different, they celebrated together as one people, as one tribe, and together and gave thanks for a wealth of food, friendship, and new discoveries. After they parted ways, but continued their treaty and kept them to themselves, never speaking of their special guests or of the future celebrations they shared together. However, it was mentioned that eventually the forest people did get attacked by one of the other Indian groups and was pushed deeper into the hiding, never to be seen again by those pilgrims and apparently still hiding to this day. Well, Steve, that's my story. Unbelievable as it probably sounds, can you imagine if things had been different and we could still celebrate together as one? What a different world this could be. Anyway, I believe we all have our own reasons to be thankful and hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you get this on time and can share it with everyone on your channel. Thank you, Steve. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving as well. Wow, very cool. That was a great story, and thank you for sending that in to us. I really enjoyed it. I think everybody else will. Great stuff. I mean, and you're right. I mean, how different it could be, especially in such a divided world that we have right now. It's just, and we've made leaps and strides even since this story on communication and stuff and learning. So it's really amazing stuff. Thanks for sending that in. So we're going to get on to the third story here and probably get this wrapped up soon. So, all right, Bigfoot on the wagon trail and a special personal experience while hunting. All right, so this is another great story and one that really didn't get enough love because, I mean, this is phenomenal. It's another historical story. And I think a lot of the things that have happened that we've learned have all been throughout our history. And the more we know about that, the more we know about what's going on today. Because when you think about it, these creatures that are out here, Klansmen, whatever, are probably still living like they were back then. So just, a little bit more unsafe. Okay, let's go ahead and get right on this one. Dear sir, I have a story for you. My name is Dave. I'm 37 years old. I live in Tennessee, not far from the Smokies. I'll start by saying I love your channel and enjoy your storytelling. Thank you for creating a nice environment for us believers to share our stories and leave comments. Speaking of which, I've read through a lot of the comments on your various stories. Some are pretty good. I wondered, why don't you share some of them for those folks that haven't read through them all? Just a thought. And I've done that. So thank you. That's a great suggestion. And I had a lot of fun with it. So I have done that since then. This goes back a ways. About my story. I hope you like history because this story goes back some. Just so you know, up front, I am a true believer. This is a story that has been passed down through my family for over 200 years. Amazing. I'm sure it has a few variations by now, though. But I was told growing up was that large groups of settlers migrated here together in groups, and my great-great-grandparents were in one of those groups that ended up settling here. Obviously, everyone knows about the journey that was very hard, difficult for all of them. Making trails, bad weather, sickness, hunger, Indian attacks. But no one warned them about the Tulkaloo, the Cherokee Devil, or a.k.a. Jadukala, meaning slant-eyed giant, a.k.a. Bigfoot, that lived in the mountains, until word passed down from group to group about the livestock animals disappearing during the night. Sometimes barrages of rocks and sticks being thrown from the forest. Everyone thought it was just the Indians trying to intimidate them, and most of the time it probably was. Other times the Indians would attack the smaller groups, sometimes leaving behind dead and taking the rest. The further they got into the mountain area, the worse it got. For several nights, my family's group started getting ambushed from the woods with rocks and sticks. Then in the morning, find chickens' cages ripped wide open and chickens gone. Sometimes pigs, cows, even dogs got taken. They tried to ignore it and kept moving, hoping to get out of that unfriendly area. But one night, a couple of the guys seen one of them sneaking into the camp and tried to shoot it. They thought it did the trick because the next couple of nights were quiet. Then on the third day after they broke camp and was on the move, they had to go follow the trail through a heavy wooded area with the hills on both sides. It was the middle of the day. My great-great-grandfather said he could see the two wagons those guys were in that took the shots at what they saw, down in the valley ahead of them. All of a sudden, the woods came to life and trees shaking, sticks and rocks flying out of everywhere from every direction. They had to take cover under the wagons, but before they did, he seen something he couldn't believe with his own eyes. He described them as upright walking buffalo people because they were so big and hairy coming down both sides of the hill. where those people were and their families were. He figured they were all about to be killed, so he climbed down under the wagon with his family and gun in hand. A short while later, as fast as it started, it stopped. Everyone slowly climbed up out to assess the damage and see if anyone was hurt. For the most part, some people got bruised up and lost most of their food and livestock, but the 2 wagons ahead were completely annihilated, smashed into little pieces, the 2 men included. Their women were dragged away from the wagon and beaten, but not killed, and their kids were gone. I guess they formed a group and tried to find the kids, but couldn't even find a trail. They gathered what they could and made their way out of the forest. When they came out, they seen a group of Cherokee Indians off in a distance, watching them for a while, but they eventually rode off. Eventually, they found out that they weren't the only group that this had happened to, and what those things were, according to the local tribes. They also found that the Indians had trouble with them as well, over hunting the area, and sometimes attacked them and taking their food and animals. With all that said, you would think my family would have kept going, but no, they settled here. So you might think they would stay out of the woods, right? No. I come from a long line of hunters, all of which, at one time or another, through the decades, have had some sort of a run-in with these things, but never violent. We've had our share of rocks thrown at us and hear them whooping back and forth. I seen my first one last year out bow hunting. I was in my blind with my string drawn down on a sweet 8-point buck when out of nowhere a big-ass rock smashed that deer right in the rib cage and down it went. By the time it could get back up, this big hairy beast of a thing ran up and grabbed it by the antler with one hand and shook it like a rag doll, then tossed it over its shoulder and walked away like he'd just stopped in for a quick snack. I was afraid he might hear my heart beating. I didn't even dare release my breath or undraw my bow until he was gone. But you know what? I couldn't wait to get back out there. All these years, I've never seen one. I might never see one again. I don't know of anyone getting hurt by one lately, so why start worrying about it now? Hey, thanks again. Share this if you want. If you don't, that's okay too, but consider reading some of your comments for us. Thanks again. Dave out. Awesome. Thanks, Dave. I really appreciate that. That's another great story. I love you. Really, you got 2 stories in there because you're going back to your parents, and then it goes all the way through history. And to think that your family had these experiences more than once. So I know you shared the story a long time ago, but if you hear it again, if you hear me, and you have any of those other stories from your family members, I'm sure we'd love to hear them. Anyway, that was those 3 stories that I wanted to share with you. I just wanted to let you know. So anyway, I'm wearing the Evolution of Production Studio shirt because I'm promoting my other channel, Evolution of Production Studio. I think I got a picture of it here. I might be able to show you. Do I? There we go. Evolution of Production Studio. So you guys can go over there. If you haven't subscribed to it, go over there and subscribe. That's a channel that we're going to be having a lot of fun with. I'm going to be doing a lot of different stuff on there. I just recently did that, how to cut a geode stone, because it came in as a gift from Driftless, one of our people here on the channel, one of our friends. And this is what it turned out to be when it was done. So, I didn't turn the camera on here, so you guys should see that. Want to see it here? Let me see if I can turn this on. There it is. So here. Okay. Can you see that? I don't know how the zoom is on this right now. Probably there. It should be on auto. But anyway, this turned out really beautiful. It's really cool. And so I really appreciate her sending this in. And I had a lot of fun cutting it too. That was kind of neat to do. I can't tell if it's blurry or not, but really cool stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff on that channel. We got some big stuff coming. I can't wait to share with you. So get over there and subscribe to that channel. I can tell you this, that I'm doing a next level type of thing. So as this channel grows and reaches new levels, I'm going to be giving out swag from the channel and stuff like that. So there's going to be a lot of stuff for the people that are subscribed and members. Really great stuff. All right. So that's it for now. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to get ready to do that other story. So I'll see you again really soon.